Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters, dear friends. Today I want to talk about a very important topic, and it's not actually because these terrorist acts occurred in New Zealand yesterday. Today is the 16th of March 2019, but I've had this thought for a very, very long time. Ever since our great scholars, the likes of Sheikh Al-Albani, rahimahullah, Sheikh Ibn Baz, rahimahullah, Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, Sheikh Muqbil, rahimahullah, all of them passed away because they used to carry they used to be the leaders of the Muslims. They used to carry the banner of knowledge and action upon that knowledge. And one of the topics they used to talk about often was the issue of Hijra. Hijra, and I will explain what it means, what the scholars said, and I wanted to talk about that. And the reason that the scholars talked about that, and they talk until now, we have ulama, may Allah preserve them and protect them, the likes of Sheikh Al-Fawzan, Sheikh Abdul Aziz Al-Sheikh, the Mufti of Saudi Arabia at the moment, the likes of Sheikh Salih Al-Luhaydan, Sheikh Abdul Karim Al-Khudair, Sheikh Abdul Muhsin Al-Abbad, the scholars of the Salafis. The Salafis doesn't mean at all ISIS, ISIL, people who engage in terrorist acts, who misunderstand the concept of jihad in Islam. It's a very noble and great concept, the concept of jihad in Islam, much, much nobler and greater than anything that you can imagine in terms of warfare. I do not mean those people who misunderstand jihad, who engage in brutal acts of terrorism against Muslims and non-Muslims, and mostly actually against Muslims. No, I mean Salafis who follow the way of the Salaf, the understanding of the Salaf in everything. The Salaf means the pious predecessors. So these scholars of the past and present, they speak of Hijra. Why? And I mean the real scholars, the big scholars. I do not mean people who maybe even if they studied with them, but unfortunately they don't agree with them on the issue of Hijra, which is a very fundamental issue. It's to do with our aqidah, with our belief and faith, and with our creed. I mean the kibar al-ulama, the big ulama. None of them actually, I do not know any big alim kabir in our time who actually differs with the Quranic concept of Hijra and the concept of Hijra in the Sunnah. For that reason, I do not hear, ever since they passed away, these great ulama, rahimahumullah, very rarely do you hear someone, even of those who say that they are students of those great ulama, speak about Hijra. It's very strange for me, and I've been struggling to understand it ever since, but I've stopped trying to understand. I mean, it's very difficult to understand, and I still don't understand it. We have a number of problems going on in the Muslim world at the moment. One of the greatest, if not the greatest, is the lack of knowledge among the Muslims, the lack of understanding of Islam, and as a result, extremely few real scholars who practice what they preach. And as a result, the word Hijra in Arabic has come to mean migration, whether it is migration to non-Muslim countries, not to mention to Muslim countries. Almost no one wants to migrate to Muslim countries, and it's a great disaster, to be honest, because Hijra in Islam means migrating from non-Muslim countries to Muslim countries, from non-Muslim lands to Muslim lands. It does not mean migrating the other way around. And now we have a huge number of Muslims thinking that if they go to non-Muslim countries, it's a great achievement, it's the aim of their lives, and so on and so forth, and they migrate for the dunya, and things like what happened in New Zealand happen not because only they migrated, of course, but what I'm saying is we want to protect Muslim lives. When Allah says, for example, not to live with non-Muslims, It's not because we're against non-Muslims, no, but because throughout history, if you study history starting from the time of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even before that, from the time of Musa, Moses, Jesus, Isa ibn Maryam, until now, the believing people who used to believe in the scripture sent by Allah and believe in the messenger sent by Allah, they were persecuted by those who did not believe. You can look anywhere. You can look throughout the history of Islam. You can see Andalus, where the Muslims stayed for 800 years almost. You can look at Sicily. Not many people probably know that Sicily used to be under Muslims for a number of centuries even, I think 200 or 300 years. You can look at many, many places, including Europe, including even our history, modern history now, and you can see what is happening. Muslims being persecuted almost everywhere they are a minority. For example, look at many Eastern European countries, Western European countries, in Asia, in Africa. They are persecuted. Not only are they persecuted, they are being killed, exterminated, and people are saying we can't do anything. And of course, it's nonsense that they can't do anything. But this is why, we want to protect the Muslims. And this is why I want to talk about Hijra. And I don't see a lot of people, like I said, in the English-speaking world or even in the Arabic-speaking world or any other, for example, Russian-speaking world, speaking about this subject of Hijra. So today I want to briefly mention a few things. Firstly, like I said, Hijra in Arabic means to leave something. I haven't mentioned this, but I will mention. To leave something, to boycott something, to boycott somebody. But in Islam it means to leave non-Muslim countries, to go to Muslim countries. So that's the meaning of it in Islam. In relation to the Quran and Sunnah, we have ayat. The strongest of them, by agreement of all scholars, is the saying of Allah in Surah An-Nisa, the women, ayah number 97. I will read from the translation. I will not mention the Arabic. You can look up the Arabic if you want. To save time, I will not mention it. Indeed, those whom the angels take, meaning upon death, while doing wrong to themselves, and that means, as the scholars of tafsir explanation of Quran explained, by not doing hijrah. They were doing wrong to themselves. The angels will say, in what condition were you? They will say, we were oppressed in the land. They, the angels, will say, was not the earth of Allah spacious enough for you to emigrate therein? For those their refuge is hell, and evil it as a destination. The next ayah, except for the oppressed among men, women and children who cannot devise a plan, nor can they find a way. So meaning these people are not included in that punishment, because anyone not doing hijrah while being able to do so, especially scholars said while not being able to practice his religion. And we have many ahadith. To practice his religion, a lot of brothers and sisters, especially living in non-Muslim countries, they will argue till Fajr, till death maybe, saying that they are able to practice their religion. I have met brothers who say, I am able to practice my religion even better than in my own Muslim country, and that is of course not true. That is the view not of myself. No, that is the view of our ulama. I will demonstrate to you certain fatwa, and you can find it on YouTube. If you can't speak Arabic, you can find, I think, translations on YouTube and other sources on Google. That, for example, our scholars say that if you're not able to hear the adhan, one of the greatest symbols of Islam, then you are not able to practice your religion. Of course, I've lived in the UK for a long time. Many brothers and sisters in the UK will say, well, in our area we can hear the adhan. Yes, there are some mosques you can hear the adhan in the UK, but only 3 times. So Fajr and Isha, you can't hear it. So I don't know personally of any place in the UK where you can hear the adhan, the call to prayer, all 5 times. That doesn't exist to my knowledge. Secondly, when you are not able to preach your religion, or you are not able to protect your family from haram, including learning other religions. For example, I don't want my child to learn other religions. No, they impose it on you. It's called religious education in the UK, in the US, Australia, other places, maybe it's called something else. So that's one thing. That is worse than anything else. But now, for the past 5-10 years, even in Islamic schools in the UK, and I'm talking about the UK because I know it very well. I have friends who run Islamic schools and academies and colleges in the UK. They all say to me, and I've been researching this for a very long time, I've been wanting to do this video for a very long time. I was hoping someone would do it. I couldn't find anyone who did it, so I decided to do it myself. They are complaining that even Islamic institutions, schools, even nurseries, they are forced to teach homosexuality. And you can see it on YouTube, in the news, on BBC. It's been kicking off for a while now, and some Muslims are now waking up that actually they are teaching our children homosexuality even at nursery level. They're saying, oh, look, there is dad and dad, mom and mom. No problem with that. Of course, even Christians don't accept that. Real Christians, they cannot accept that. Not to mention Muslims. So it's very amazing to see Muslims who argue that in the West or any other non-Muslim country, they're able to practice their religion, to protect their religion, to protect their children, their wives, and so on and so forth. That is not the case. And we should not look at what the governments say in those countries, that we have total religious freedom and the freedom of expression and religious freedom and so on. And it's not true at all. Not true at all. Not to mention that you cannot control your wife. So in Islam, we are put in charge as men, in charge of our wives. In those countries, you cannot. Not to mention the fact that in many Western European countries, the niqab, the face veil, has been banned. And this is a fact. You can just Google it. And the fact that these countries have banned doesn't mean that it will stop at that. It will continue being banned across maybe the whole of the non-Muslim world, maybe, under the pretext of fighting terrorism. Of course, it's, whenever you hear fighting terrorism these days, you must understand fighting Muslims and Islam. Nothing else. And that's why nothing amazing to me when these attacks started happening as early as 2005 in London. Of course, they were blamed on Muslims, and I don't doubt that maybe they were used in some kind of plot. But if you analyze certain things, these probably Muslims, if they were Muslims, they were used by certain people to besmirch the name of Islam and the Muslims. A lot of inconsistencies if you look into these things that have been happening, not to mention attacks on Muslims. And they've been happening all over the world, especially in non-Muslim countries. We do not include the likes of ISIS, ISIL, who have an ideology to actually kill. But I mean the non-Muslims who actually target Muslims, and sometimes Muslims and non-Muslims alike. For example, Jews in America, or Jews in France, or non-Muslims anywhere. So this is the rise of the so-called far right, helped by many governments, many people, and it's of course it's a reaction to the Muslim migration and migration of other people, but especially Muslim migration. So in the view of our scholars and the view of Islam, the Muslims in non-Muslim countries cannot really practice their religion. The fact that you can pray and go home, and then on the TV you see that there's a soap opera talking about a gay family or homosexuals or whatever, doesn't mean you are able to practice your religion. It's an illusion. Most Muslims in the West and non-Muslim countries, they are living under an illusion. This illusion is perpetuated rather, by their own selves, by their wives, because they don't want to go back to their countries. They don't want to leave the control they have over their husbands. Many brothers told me themselves. After we debated for a long time, one of the brothers said, and he's mashallah, a very big brother, and his wife is not a very big woman, very small. He said, brother, I will tell you straight, if I say what you say and I agree with you, my wife will divorce me. And this is true. I know this for a fact. But, everyone must stand up for their religion, be a man, not be someone, I don't even know, man, woman. You can't understand. Some hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, I'm free from any Muslim who lives among the idolaters, among the mushrikeen. He also said, Allah doesn't accept any deeds from an idolater after he becomes a Muslim until he leaves the non-Muslims and migrates to the Muslims. Who lives with a mushrik, idolater, and mixes with him, he is the same as him. There are many ahadith, but these are some of the ahadith I want to mention. And inshallah, in the next video, I want to bring some fatwa of the ulama. For now, I want to finish, and I want every one of our Muslim brothers and sisters, and of course we feel very bad for our brothers and sisters who die anyway, especially a violent death. We ask Allah to forgive them, to accept them in paradise. But we as Muslims must analyze the Quran and the Sunnah. We must listen to our scholars. We must not live for the sake of this world, of worldly possessions, of money, status, jobs. Our number one priority must be our religion and the religious observance of ourselves and our families, our close relatives, our loved ones. And that must be our number one priority. And we must not really be swayed by ourselves, by shaitan, the Satan, by our wives, children, relatives who do not know the religion or they don't want to follow it, bluntly put. We must try and follow the religion according to understanding of our scholars. And inshallah, in the next video, I will demonstrate that our scholars think, how they think and what they think. May Allah protect all the Muslims everywhere. May Allah make us understand our religion and practice it as He likes, and make us live upon that and meet Him upon that. وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد والحمد لله رب العالمين.